If you guys have watched the channel for any amount of time, you know that I'm like an overly nostalgic guy. I'm always in my feels. This past trip definitely got me thinking about where I was as an engineer, where I am now, where I'm going. Very long story, very short. I got invited by my old university to accept an award, Outstanding Alumni of the Year. A massive honor. I would have never in a million years thought I would ever receive. And I got to go back to my old university, be part of a wind ensemble concert, get an award from the deans, and give a speech. Not something that I typically do. Writing that speech had me think about being back in college, the process of going through college, and what did I want to do. The skill sets that I had, the things I was involved in, the people that I knew, each one of those individuals, the teachers, the friends that I made. I know it's a part of me, and ever since I became a dad, it's just gotten worse, where I hold on to memories. Maybe it's over romanticizing things from the past, or maybe it's not. Recognizing those turning points is like a big thing on my channel, and I talk about it a lot, and so I think it resonates with at least some of you. And actually, I got a chance to capture some of those memories with something that I wanted for a long time. So I guess I can say thanks to the sponsor of this video, Sweetwater and Sound Devices, for sending me the Mix Pre 6 and being able to capture, literally, to go back to some of those places and capture those memories with some of the best preamps I think I've ever used. This is being powered right now by a USB-C cable into an iPhone adapter, and that's how I powered it the entire time on like a 6-foot cable. Whether it was plugged into an outlet or a battery. This thing's a workhorse, and I carried it around with my Soyuz Ambisonic. One sec. Carried it around with my Soyuz Ambisonic mic. So there's basically 4 elements on here. It picks up everything surrounding the mic, and you use a decoder after the fact to kind of parse out the stereo picture that you want with it. Used a lot in like post work and video games. Super cool microphone. If you're ever curious about ambisonic stuff, check this one out. Check out any number of other ambisonic mics. Obviously that takes phantom power. I was able to power that with this unit on a USB-C cable, no problem. You can also use this thing as an interface. One cable, everything you need going right in. Can we just appreciate this space for a second? I'm a studio nerd. I really take in like how a space feels. And for me, this building was not here when I was a student, but this is a special place. For me, that was Park Place Church of God when I was here, and I remember singing there. Singing there so many times with the chorale and just thinking about what the voice felt like, leaving, vibrating off the walls and coming back. It gives me goosebumps thinking about it. I got goosebumps listening to you guys. But man, this is a special place. When I say capturing those memories, I got to go back to my old university in preparation for this speech. And thinking about all those things that led up to that moment, given what I do now, I was heavily involved with choir and singing in all sorts of different spaces down there, as well as like working in the school's recording studio and recording different ensembles and recitals and stuff that were there. So I became pretty familiar with like how spaces sound. And a lot of times, even now, when I capture something, I think back to those things, especially the ones that really stand out, and how much a space matters to capturing a source. I got super excited at the idea of going back and capturing those memories that I've held on to for so long. There's a saying, when you sing in a really, really good choir, the thing everybody says is remember the voices. Now, it's not that hard. It's if you sing in a choir, and if you've ever had a chance to do something like that, you know, you don't forget those moments. Like, they stick with you. You can vividly remember the person to your left and the person to your right and exactly what they sound like. And the process of like blending a voice, there's something special about being part of an ensemble like that you never truly forget. Being able to sing in some of those spaces at my old university, I knew immediately I had to capture those. So, blast from the past here at an old church that I used to sing in a lot as a college student. And my mom came with me. So she's gonna hold the camera while we show you what we're doing. the large church. We called it PP Chog, Park Place Church of God. That room, it just pushes back on you. You can feel it leave because the space is massive. You feel like the voices leave you, but it pushes right back in such a good way. The way we're gonna do this, we've got the Soyuz Ambisonic and the sound device is Mix Pre 6. We're gonna get this up as high as possible. And I'm gonna go around and pop balloons in different locations around the room, turn that into impulses, and now I'll be able to use this room in all of my productions. That room, there's just something really special about that room. You sing with like a whole ensemble and the organs full going in there. No reverb that I've ever used has like taken me back to that moment, because reverb is just about creating memories, getting you to transport back to somewhere. And nothing that I've ever used has transported me back to that place. So I knew this was the chance that I had to take it with me forever. So we've got the mic up in the building, about halfway through here. Beauty of the Ambisonic is I can get it coming from any direction. I might move it for the last couple to get a little different vibe, because this is a cross-shaped church here. And we've got everything running into the sound devices, Mix Pre 6. Do you need this thing to go do what I did? Absolutely not. I specifically wanted to capture these moments with literally the best possible capture that I could get while being mobile. I could have taken some incredible stuff with like a full computer rig, but I didn't have that luxury. I had to be in and out in like 10 minutes. And this is how I did it. Students, let me talk to you for a second. Realize the resources you have here, because man, it goes really fast. Realize that the relationships that you have with your peers and the faculty will mirror the relationships that you have in your professional career moving forward. So keep those interactions in check. Realize that everybody you're gonna work with is a human, and they want to work with good, decent humans. You're not gonna be perfect, and realize that's okay. You're gonna win some, you're gonna lose some, you're gonna fail a lot if you're like me, and that's okay. Now you know how not to do a thing. Hold on to these moments for what they are, because at the end of it, everybody goes their own separate ways. So I was part of an ensemble called Chorale. Everybody wanted to get into chorale. If you were a singer, that's the one you wanted to be in. You had to try out an audition, which can be really stressful. I somehow got in as a freshman. So all 4 years of my college career, I got to be a part of this choir. So sitting in that room and singing with that choir, I know that space like the back of my hand. I remember how it decays, how it sounds. It's not a massive room, but it sounded so good. And so going back and being able to capture that meant a whole lot. So we made our way to my old chorale room, another space that's just very reverberant. So why not take the time to capture this room too? Being able to put voices in spaces like that, and what I do now, because I'm capturing reverbs, right, with this thing. Impulse responses, using the ambisonic this and a balloon. And there's different ways to do it, and there's different ways you can capture reverbs, and some people will say you need to sweep the space. I didn't have that opportunity, so the next best thing I could do was just an impulse. And popping a balloon was the most consistent thing I could do from different points in the room. And I got some incredible captures of these spaces. They sound just like I remember them. And that's how we do it. The thing with this unit, they kind of give you everything that you need right off the bat. If you take off the back plate, that's where your SD card's gonna go. Obviously you have 2 mic inputs on this side, 2 mic inputs on this side, your headphone out, a stereo out so you can plug it into your camera. But using this as a mobile rig and as an interface, the preamps, my gosh, 32-bit float, I will say that workflow I think is a bit overrated. I was super excited for 32-bit float, when in all actuality, like, I'm gonna make sure I set the gain right anyway, because that's what an engineer does. Can it get you out of a jam? Sure, but the 32-bit float workflow and actually like trying to recover something that's already too far gone, chances are your mic is already blown. Like the circuitry in the mic itself is clipping. Like if the source is that loud, then you've got the wrong mic. So it's a whole thing. It doesn't make sense for how I would use an interface, but I definitely see the appeal in certain situations. I was a music business major. Music business is weird. Like, we don't even know if the industry is going to resemble next year what it does today, let alone at the end of a 4-year degree. I mean, students, how do you learn? Educators, how do you teach to something? A career in an industry that's literally designed to outmaneuver you at every step. You have to learn to fail and be okay with failing often, which is great for me. I don't feel like I'm a professional in anything except for one thing, and that's failing. It's the thing I've done most in my life. I was never going to be that guy who had an office job. I was never going to be the guy who had a 9-to-5. I don't know why. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It just wasn't me. So I was trying to monetize every little hobby that I had. I was always the guy with an extra business idea that by the time you smelled the ashes of the previous one, here I am with another idea. I imagine a lot of us, students and faculty, feel like we wouldn't want to do anything else. Music is just who we are. And if you're anything like me, you feel like you literally can't do anything else because it's just so ingrained in who you are. We feel like we have literally no meaning without music. Now, there's a learning curve to going to something like this if you are used to just using an interface. The way they set this up is actually pretty helpful. So you've got your menu here. You can see how all this stuff is laid out, your preamps, your record buttons. If you go to your menu, that's where you have your presets, your projects, all that fun stuff, your outputs, your inputs. That's basically where you're gonna set this thing up. Immediately, the thing that was hard for me to find was like the headphones, like what source do you want to be monitoring? Now, I last used this as an interface, so my source was input 1 and 2. Typically, that's going to be a left and right stereo, the sum of the box, like what's all going through this. It's a mixer at that point. Where this starts to get really interesting is setting up presets, like you can see. So you can quickly go back and forth from using this as an interface to using it as a capture device. If we go here into system, now this is where the box opens up. Right out of the box, it's going to go in basic mode. And if you record in basic mode, it's just going to give you a left and a right summation of the two. I'm recording ambisonic, so I had to fix this. So what I did, if you go into advanced, which we are in, and you can set this up custom however you want, but that is what's going to give you control over each individual track. So 1, 2, 3, 4 corresponds to 1, 2, 3, 4. So using ambisonic, I had to go in and have individual control of everything. So that's where you have your record arm of each individual track. You can set your gain of each individual track, which using ambisonic, it's really important that those are set as close to the same as possible. With this, you actually have a handy display that shows you the gain of everything. And right now they are set a little bit different because I was not using the ambisonic on this last. The flexibility here is bonkers. You've got 6 inputs here. Your aux input can be a stereo left and right. You can use it as a mic. It's super flexible. Now the other cool thing here, a Wingman app. So this works via Bluetooth and syncs with the device. So it's not going to get you any dates, but it'll definitely hook you up when this thing's on a stand across the room and you need to hit record, which I did. One of the things I like to do is capture different spaces that I go to. Before we came here, I went over to Park Place Church of God and captured that space by taking an impulse response, just a loud pop. And for a moment, I can capture that snapshot and that goes with me forever. So what I would like to do really quick is we have so many music lovers in one room. I want to try something. This space is beautiful and it sounds great, yeah, but a room is just walls without its content and something special happening within. So I would like for us to think about something. Why are you guys here? A lot of us are students. Some of us are alum. Why music? Why are you studying this? Educators, I'm looking at you too. Why are you teaching this? Because whether you're learning it or you're teaching it, This is difficult. And what is that driving force that pushes you forward, that got you from where you were to where you want to be in the future? For us, the answer is going to be different all around. But the one thing that holds it all together is our love for music and performance. So think about what that is. And in a second, I'm going to clap. There's a microphone back there that's been recording this whole time. And I'm going to take that clap and turn it into an impulse response that I can then use in my everyday work as a reverb, as a space in my job. Because there's something special about not just spaces, but the content of those spaces. So I want to try to create one of the most emotionally charged reverbs that I've ever taken, if you're willing to help me out here. So hold in your mind why you're doing this. Why do you love music? So remember, it's not music that gives you purpose. It's you that gives the music purpose. Thank you guys for sharing that moment with me. I can't say thank you enough to Sweetwater and Sound Devices because it meant a lot to capture that stuff. If you guys are interested in those reverbs, let me know. They're so personal that I don't know necessarily why anyone would be, but I'm happy to share those. I don't necessarily like to be in the spotlight. And with something like this, it felt so incredibly humbling to be a part of. But the main thing that it did is just gets me so excited about what's coming next. It genuinely makes me feel honored to get to do what I do for a living. Because I know a lot of folks either don't try, can't try, too scared to try. Listening to the voice in your head that tells you you're not good enough, I mean, it never goes away, okay? It never goes away. Imposter syndrome is a thing at every stage, everywhere. You'll never think you're good enough. That's okay. That's the whole idea. Recording studio loser. That's what the whole thing's about. But holding on to those memories and like remembering where you came from, remembering those first sounds. Us as engineers, sound is everything that we do. For every context of what we get into, there was that first sound, that first snare drum. You were like, that's the one I like. The first guitar tone that you got, you were like, now we're heading on the right track. For me, that's reverb, like creating space. I am constantly frustrated with mine because I feel like reverb is where people feel something. Reverb is that space in between attack and release where it's just straight emotion. It's the room contributing to what you're doing. Like that is the whole darn thing for me. So being able to capture those spaces that are just freaking hardwired into my head, I can't put into words what that means. These rooms may not mean a thing to you, and that is absolutely okay, but there are those spaces, and there are those silly things that we do in our studio. Like I took this and captured my vestibule, my drum room. That's kind of like the trashiest sounding spot in my studio, but I feel like I can't make a drum sit without that room. Being able to capture something like that, being able to just create spaces and impulses from all the weird ideas you have, capturing those moments, capturing those memories. It's big. If you guys made it this far in the video, I greatly appreciate it. Consider liking, consider hitting subscribe. Thank you, Sweetwater and Sound Devices, for sponsoring this video and making a box that is just next level. If you guys are interested, I will put affiliate links down in the description below. As always, I am Resident Loser Jeremy, and I'll see you in the next one.